You know, there's this old saying, and it holds true today. The best laid plans of mice and men sometimes will go awry, okay? So let's just...
First impression of Marlene.
Marlene is quite the protagonist. Marlene is a force of nature.
She's very industrious and hardworking.
Marlene was always a lady.
Once she came, the work never stops.
What I remembered most about her was how at ease she made me feel.
I'm talking about Dr. Street-Forrest. I could be here for the whole day.
As a sense of humor and has a very infectious laugh.
That warmth is Marlene Street-Forrest specific.
And I think that is her strongest attribute.
Honestly, I saw the exchange as an institution. While it's not government, but I saw the exchange as an institution for Jamaica.
When the position of manager, of the general manager came up, I didn't see her application. So I said, Mrs. Forrest, I'm not seeing your application for the position, what is it? I will prepare your resume and I will send in your application. So I prepared the resume, sent in her application. She was interviewed and of course she was successful.
The thing that comes to my mind is that in the pursuit of excellence, one person can make a difference.
Auntie Marlene come from country, right? Auntie Marlene come from Portland. And there's a specific kind of personality traits that I find Portlanders have. First of all, they're very manners-able, which I guess you could say country people on a whole very manners-able. But also very grounded and concerned about reputation.
And throughout my time here at the Stock Exchange, I think I've seen no change in how welcoming and how comforting, though firm, that she is.
That warmth is Marlene Street-Forrest specific. She carries it with her.
Jamaica need to formally thank her for her service.
It's a real pleasure for me, and a privilege in fact, to say thank you to Mrs. Marlene Street-Forrest and her team. And she has a really marvelous team around, and she'll tell you all the time, it's my team that makes me look so good, but I know that she's a great leader of that team.
It's been an absolute pleasure working with you, and that doesn't make it easy. You are a motivated force of nature, and it has been my pleasure working with you. Challenging your thoughts, having mine challenged, you're challenging the board, and the exchange to move into new areas.
So Doc, I'm expecting to see you in a very prominent role in Jamaica.
I would like to be remembered as someone who is a team player. Understanding people, understanding that they are at the base, very important to organizations, and so I would like to be remembered as that person who understood that.
Oh, my first impression of Marlene.
Marlene is quite the protagonist.
Marlene is a force of nature.
She's very industrious and hardworking.
Marlene was always a lady.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've just seen a remarkable woman whose leadership, discipline, discretion, and daring have helped us move forward to make the Jamaica Stock Exchange a global powerhouse. Please help me applaud the Managing Director of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, Dr. Marlene Street-Forrest.
Mr. Michael Anthony Koff, Master of Ceremonies, and I'll be calling some of the names of the persons who are not yet here. I'm just setting the stage. The Most Honorable Dr. Andrew Holness, Prime Minister, Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Finance and the Public Service, other members of the Cabinet, Mr. Julian Robinson, Opposition Spokesman, Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Peter Phillips, Member of Parliament and former Leader of the Opposition, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Mr. Stephen Whittingham, Chairman of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, Mr. Stephen Gooden, Deputy Chairman of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, Professor Neville Ying, Chairman, Jamaica Social Stock Exchange, and other members of the boards of the JSE, JCSD, JCSD Trustee Services, and the JSSE. Ms. Andrea Kelly, General Manager, JCSD and JCSD Trustee Services, heads of regional stock exchanges and securities commissions, Mr. Gregory Fisher, Managing Director, Head of Emerging Market, Fixed Income and Wealth Management of Jefferies, Mr. Angus Young, Chief Executive Officer, NCB Capital Markets, Mr. John Stoffers, Managing Director, Chief Investment Strategist, Oppenheimer Asset Management, Reverend Dexter Johnson, National Director, Jamaica Youth for Christ, Mr. Andre Gooden, Group Business Development Manager, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Like Michael, I'd love to get a better one. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. To you who are here in person or have joined us online, it is with great pleasure that I welcome you to the 20th staging of the Jse Regional Conference on Investments and the Capital Markets. It is a pleasure to host this distinguished event, joined by our valued sponsors, Jefferies and NCB Capital Markets Limited, along with other invaluable partners, both long-standing and recent. Your unwavering support has been the heartbeat of this conference, and for that we are grateful. Obviously, you come year on year and you become addicted. The 20th Jse Regional Conference is a milestone reflecting 2 decades of commitment to advancing our regional financial ecosystem and demonstrates the critical importance of collaboration, innovation, and shared vision. This year's theme, Safeguarding the Capital Markets, People, Progress, and Opportunities, speak to the core of our mission as a region. It challenges us to think beyond the present, to strengthen the framework that governs and sustains our market, and to unlock opportunities to drive inclusive growth and regional financial stability. It also signals to us to cement our commitment to ensuring that the financial system we steward is not only robust and inclusive, but also dynamic and a dynamic driver for sustainable growth. Tonight, we are delighted to share that this event is being streamed live by our own CBX cable network. I was told that I had to get that in. A testament to how we are shaping to engage, share, and connect as a region using technology. It also speaks about the potential of technology to transform how our markets operate and evolve. Additionally, we tonight are buoyed by the latest news from the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce that the fourth quarter survey on business and consumer confidence continue to show a positive trend. This is a strong signal of optimism in the market as we explore how to sustain and amplify the momentum through enhanced capital market strategies. At the heart of this year's discussion lies an essential sub-theme, enhancing financial products by innovation for long-term growth. The rapidly evolving global financial landscape challenges us to think differently. And throughout the conference, that probably is what I'd love to do, to challenge you to think differently, to remain competitive and to safeguard the future of our markets. We must look beyond traditional models and embrace innovation as a catalyst for long-term value creation. There are key areas for consideration as we chart this course. One is expanding the product range. The global shift towards diversified financial products, such as green bonds, sustainability-linked securities, and alternative investment funds, demonstrates that innovation can create pathways to attract new investors. And the region must prioritize creating instruments that meet global demand while addressing local needs. Technology-driven innovation like blockchain and tokenized assets are reshaping how we trade, settle, and invest. So while we have started on this journey, and we have, things take time, it is important that our financial markets move speedily ahead to create the necessary legislations and framework to embrace it, and for the frameworks created to be workable and not steeped in bureaucracy and red tape. Pardon? Okay, the Prime Minister is coming at the moment. Could we just acknowledge his presence?
Happy New Year, everyone.
You may be seated. Welcome, Prime Minister. Yes, it's a pleasure, as usual, to have you here year after year, and we look forward to your delivery. So we were speaking about the different products that are necessary to drive the regional capital markets, and PM, we also said that the legislations are needed to be in place and that they are needed quickly, and they should not be steeped in bureaucracy, but give enough mix to foster creativity and the willingness of market makers to want to move forward. Next, we speak daily about the small and medium-sized companies as the engine of growth. Some efforts have yielded success, such as Junior Market, but when we speak about enhancing financial products, we must move forward to create creative, tailor-made products for the small and medium-sized companies. Finally, we must not forget that for the capital markets to really work for us, it must be inclusive. Therefore, we must innovate financial products and prioritize inclusiveness, ensuring access for individuals who remain underserved by traditional markets. Technology-enabled solutions such as micro-investment platforms can help democratize access to investment opportunities. And I'm so happy that the Prime Minister is here when we emphasize micro-investment opportunities. As we reflect on the past 2 decades, it is evident that our capital markets have been instrumental in driving regional growth and stability. However, to safeguard these gains and position ourselves as a global force, we must prioritize long-term, innovative-led strategies that foster resilience, adaptability, and inclusiveness. This conference provides an unparalleled platform to explore these opportunities. Over the next 2 days, I encourage you to share bold and sometimes even crazy ideas, challenge traditional perspectives, and collaborate on actionable solutions that will drive sustainable growth across our markets. Again, on behalf of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, I thank you for your commitment to this shared vision. Let us use this conference to pave the way for a future where innovation enhances financial products, promote inclusivity, and ensure long-term prosperity for all. Once again, welcome to the JSE's Regional Conference on Investments and the Capital Markets. Together, let us safeguard and advance our markets for the people, the progress, and the opportunities that await. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Street-Forrest, for that warm welcome and insightful overview of this year's conference. And speaking of welcome, may I add my own personal welcome to you, Prime Minister? Good to see you, sir. Friends, over the next 3 days, we'll take a deep dive into the theme safeguarding the capital markets, people, opportunities, and progress. And that's no small topic. But you know, if this conference has proven anything over the last 2 decades, it's that we don't just discuss challenges, we create actionable solutions. On that note, up next is the chairman of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. He'll be speaking on improving market services through enhanced customer service. Please help me welcome Mr. Stephen Whittingham.
Everyone, welcome to the annual Stock Exchange Conference. Marlene, one of the things about following behind her is that she so dutifully establishes protocol. It is easy for me to follow suit, but I think the Prime Minister was not here, so I'd like to recognize him just to make sure you knew that your presence was acknowledged. I would also like to make special mention of the Minister from St. Kitts, Samuel Duggins, who's seated in the front row here. He has traveled here and very happy to have him. He's a good personal friend, and I won't bother to go through his entire portfolio because it's so extensive. We just call him the Minister of Everything. I'd also like to just give a special welcome to our primary sponsors from Jefferies and from NCB Capital Markets. Always good to see you, and I know we're going to look forward to hearing your remarks later. This evening, it really is my distinct pleasure to welcome everyone to the launch of this annual conference. It's the 20th occasion of this launch, and I strongly believe that this gathering, which by design is scheduled for the beginning of the year, really plays an instrumental role in setting the tone for the financial markets across the Caribbean by engaging executives, impacting board agendas, and influencing governments. Bharat Anand, who is the vice provost at Harvard, was here in Jamaica last month, and he was also a professor at strategy at HBS while I was there, and he says, if you want growth, innovate. If you want exceptional growth, connect. And it's amazing to see such extensive and impressive group of attendees this evening, and I'm excited to see what will come from the connections that will be made over the next couple of days. In preparing my remarks for this evening, my thoughts kept returning to the critical issue of productivity, the inputs that are required to generate that output. And the most common measure of productivity that we use is labor productivity, which refers to the output or the value added per worker or per hours worked. And labor productivity is really important because it impacts everything from customer service to manufacturing efficiency to the public sector. It is central to the success of any economy. So why is it that I say that Jamaica has a productivity crisis? Well, I'll share a few excerpts from Professor Tennant's report, and you can decide for yourself. It says that productivity in Jamaica declined in the early 70s, in the mid-1980s, and then throughout the 90s. You're talking about a 30-year span. Second point I want to make from his report, Jamaica's annual labor productivity growth for the period 2001 to 2022 has been predominantly negative. It was decreasing at an average rate of 0.9% since 2001. So even we've been less productive every year on average for the past, say, 20 years. Jamaica has the lowest GDP per person employed in 2021 relative to the other countries in his study. Let's not get into who was in the study. But what was also important was that when you looked at how we compared, our GDP was compared to the next lowest company, it was almost twice our level of productivity. So even compared to peers of ours, we were having a challenge. And Jamaica was the only country in the group for which the GDP per person employed in 2021 was lower than in 2000. Okay, so these are some challenging statistics to hear. Professor Tennant, last one I'll share. Low and declining productivity in Jamaica was ubiquitous across sectors, which means that for all of the economy, when you looked at 8 of the 12 sectors, we found that there were challenges with productivity, which means that it wasn't industry specific. It means we have a challenge. So I appreciate, and the master ceremonies said I was coming up here to offer solutions, but I appreciate that what I've shared is a lot to take in, and possibly might be a little depressing, but that's not why I raised it, right? Because it is my hope that this discussion that we renew today will inspire optimism and a belief that we can overcome this challenge. And whenever it comes to Jamaica, I never give up hope. Our beloved country is such an enigma. Little Jamaica has produced the greatest musicians, the fastest athletes, and has a global reputation that in no way correlates to the relative size of our country. Jamaica produced the #1 ranked stock exchange, the best performing stock exchange globally, according to Bloomberg, not once, but twice, 2015 and 2018, during which the same period I just told you, we experienced declining productivity. During that same period of declining productivity, Jamaica achieved one of the most remarkable economic turnarounds, from proxy defaults and multiple rounds of debt restructurings, and the country standing on the brink to becoming a shining global example of fiscal discipline. So on paper, it just doesn't make sense. Something isn't adding up. But what cannot be put on paper is the soul of our people and the strength of the institutions we create when we collaborate. If this is what we are able to achieve with so little, can you imagine what we could do with so much more? Jamaica's economy and society have been plagued with inequality of opportunity. For many, access to capital, to participate in wealth creation and other indices of the formal economy have been limited. One way to address this issue, and also, by the way, the issue of productivity, is with a vested labor force. So hear me. The new board member and a company's banker stepped carelessly over a sanitary footbath on an introductory tour of a listed manufacturing company. I'm sure the Prime Minister does these once a week. And all the voice said, "Wait, you can't do that." It was looked around, there was a man covered in dust watching, and he said, "You might bring infection into the plant." And he proudly said, "I'm a shareholder of this company." You see that story? It was rare decades ago. It's more common now, but it's not prevalent enough. The Jamaica Stock Exchange is a premier institution to foster inclusion, engagement, and good returns for our people. Open to all, even those with limited funds to invest, listing and trading on the Jamaica Stock Exchange has become a major stimulant of enterprise for businesses and individuals traditionally shut out of capital sources. This is an achievement of great significance in our aspirational journey as a country from a developing nation to a developed nation. The JSE is playing its role in facilitating a stronger economy, a higher standard of living for our people, building out advanced infrastructure, and supporting environmental sustainability. the inspiration of employee share ownership, improving corporate prospects through engagement, the brilliance of the Jamaica Junior Stock Market, continuously inspiring entrepreneurship, the promise of the social stock exchange, and the ambition of the new green, sustainable, and sustainable linked bond market. That's a bit of a tongue twister, Marlene. Those all reduce the rough edges of the markets for good purpose. The Jamaica Stock Exchange has evolved from a narrow trading platform where the shuffling of investments by the established few took place. It has added over 127,000 JCSD accounts over the last 5 years, bringing the total market participants to over 330,000. Now, today, the JSE is a dynamic facility for wealth creation, investor stimulation, sound management practices at more and more small businesses, and the prosperity of a widening swath of ordinary Jamaicans. This progression that we are all witnessing firsthand knows no terminus. This conference is intended to sharpen our focus and ignite more enthusiasm and trust. Trust is achieved if we constantly improve our market services through transparent customer relations and more extensive public education around how the stock exchange works and how it can enhance commerce and personal fortunes. Enthusiasm fostered by the relentless ambition and the acquisitiveness of the populace finding an outlet and profit on the JSE trading floor, from schoolers to retirees, from people with a partner draw to the dreamers in the diaspora, enamored by members of YAD. So, Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, the Jamaica Stock Exchange continues to promote and position itself as an indispensable partner in achieving this nation's economic objectives. Our zeal is to bring the benefits of orderly access to capital and the rewards from equity participation to a critical mass of Jamaicans. This, I am convinced, will help our country navigate through its productivity crisis by tackling the binding constraints identified to productivity, by reducing inequality, and with it, the incentives for crime and corruption, by increasing people's sense of belonging, and with it, their motivation to actively participate and to innovate, and by showing people, at long last, the transformative benefits of economic growth and the true value of the education and skill development that are required to achieve it. Ladies and gentlemen, again, it is my pleasure to welcome you here. I'm happy to have you here. I'm looking forward to engaging with you over the course of the next few days, and I'm hoping that the connections that you make here over the next few days will inspire exponential growth. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you, Chairman, for your valuable insights. Tomorrow promises to kick off with a full morning of exciting sessions, including the much anticipated Doing Business in Cuba. Did you hear me? Yeah, doing business in Cuba, yeah. And of course, the launch of the green bond market. It's just one more example of how this conference delivers unmatched value and collaboration opportunities. Up next, the CEO of NCB Capital Markets, who will discuss harnessing the power of data, revolutionizing investments with market analytics. Please help me welcome Mr. Angus Young.
The Most Honorable Dr. Andrew Holness, Prime Minister, Honorable Samuel Duggins, Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, Marine Resources, Entrepreneurship, Cooperatives, and Creative, St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm very tempted to say Minister of Everything, but I think that will cause some confusion. Ladies and gentlemen, as we gather to celebrate and reflect on the 20th anniversary of the JSE Regional Investments and Capital Markets Conference, we are also witnessing the changing of the guards of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. It would be remiss of me not to proceed without acknowledging, honoring, and saluting Dr. Marlene Street-Forrest, Managing Director of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. She has led with distinction while defining her tenure as a period of transformation and many firsts. It was during the Street-Forrest era that the world had no choice but to acknowledge that the Jamaica Stock Exchange was ranked the #1 performing stock exchange in the world in 2015 and again in 2018. In fact, it was under her stewardship that this conference was inaugurated as a demonstration of her commitment to market education and growth of the capital markets. The ripple effect of this was that this conference then spawned the introduction of the Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana Capital Markets Conferences. Dr. Marlene Street-Forrest, we salute you. Let us also extend an acknowledgement to the participants in this room as players in the capital markets and shapers of this conference. Collectively, we have used this conference over the past 20 years to shape the narratives impacting the capital markets locally and regionally. We have spent these 20 years planting and nurturing seeds that continue to bear fruit in our economies. Consider for a moment that provocative ideas such as the junior stock market was given room to germinate in a hall like this and is now the standard bearer for similar exchanges regionally. Launched in 2009 to encourage investment in small and medium-sized enterprises in Jamaica, the junior market now boasts 46 listed companies, some of which have grown tremendously since listing. Some companies have grown through the incubator of the junior market, have now graduated to the main market. We have seen where the lessons learned and the legislation used from this critical element of the market in Jamaica was used to guide the creation of the SME market in Trinidad and Tobago. It took ownership from all aspects of the industry to work together to bring life and tangible outcomes of this conference over the years. And this is the aspect I want to focus on for the next few minutes. Over the last 2 decades, I have worked across the region, and based on my experience, I am of the opinion that Jamaica's capital market is the deepest and most sophisticated capital market in the Caribbean. While on a global scale, our capital markets aren't considered efficient, Jamaica's capital market is the most efficient in the region. As broker-dealers, we have to take ownership of our markets, and we have to go against anything that will negatively affect our market's reputation and integrity. There is no motherland coming to save us if we screw up. This is why we must adopt the ownership mindset towards the continuous development and safeguarding of our capital markets. What does this mean in tangible terms? You will recall that in 2008, the global financial crisis highlighted how broker-dealers played a pivotal role in amplifying risk in the financial system. Their aggressive trading of complex securities like mortgage-backed assets and reliance on excessive leverage created vulnerabilities. When the housing market collapsed, many broker-dealers faced liquidity crises, sparking widespread panic and contributing to the financial system's meltdown. This in turn led to tighter regulations to curb risky behaviors in the future. We, as broker-dealers in Jamaica and in the Caribbean, cannot let this happen to our capital markets. In Jamaica, the retail investor is a significant participant in our markets. They rely on us to sift through complexities, identify risk, and endorse investments that uphold the principles of transparency, accountability, and sustainability. Retail investors should be able to rely on the advice of their brokers. As such, we as broker-dealers must always act as the first layer of adjudication, the first filter, the first underwriter. Some argue that this is not the role of the broker, and the market ought to decide what degree of risk it takes. And in a perfect environment, perhaps there's an argument to be made. But in our capital markets, where the retail segment is so involved, I am of the opinion that we as broker-dealers have the burden of responsibility to make sure that we think long, that we think for country, and in so doing, make sure that we act responsibly in what we bring to market. By doing so, we do more than safeguard individual transactions. We preserve the credibility of the entire system, and this is something we must own as broker-dealers. Our role as we move to the next decade will become even more critical as the financial markets continue to evolve in an increasingly dynamic environment filled with new trends, pressures, and opportunities. For example, the government of Jamaica will not be the serial issuer of capital market assets like years gone by. Jamaica's economic metrics continue to improve, and improving credit ratings are a testament to this. So the domestic capital markets will have to manufacture new assets to live off of, and this brings significant opportunity for further development and sophistication. Broker-dealers must work with both public and private issuers to structure deals responsibly and sustainably, where the wealth creation ambitions of the investor lie at the heart of our actions. Again, the Jamaican market continues to lead in this regard, as we have seen with the public assets being brought to market in recent times. For example, back in 2020, the story of Trans-Jamaica Highway being added to the market is certainly one for the history books, where the average Jamaican who participated in the IPO and held it since then saw a 205.7% return, basically triple-fold from the IPO. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the kind of innovative and bold, yet solid approach needed to excite the market and provide buoyancy even as we look to the future. The Honorable Fayval Williams, Minister of Finance and the Public Service, recently announced that we are one step closer to raising the capital limit on junior market listings from $500 million to $750 million. In the last budget speech, the Honorable Nigel Clark, the then Minister of Finance, would have disclosed several fundraising initiatives by the government of Jamaica. The Norman Manley International Airport securitization was one. Others are expected to come in 2025, and I encourage us all to listen carefully to Prime Minister Holness when he speaks later, and to the Honorable Fayval Williams, who joins us tomorrow morning. These government-related transactions will buoy the domestic capital markets in 2025 and will ensure that investors gain access to some of the best proxies of Jamaica's progress and continued trajectory. In like manner, broker-dealers have the responsibility to ensure private issues are vetted to produce a sustainable return to investors, even while being robust and sustainable at their core. To put plainly, as broker-dealers, we need to exercise a level of responsibility to ensure that the companies brought to market are fit and proper to go public. It is this, ladies and gentlemen, that will begin to attract the global capital needed to position the regional markets as a formidable force internationally. Even as these opportunities come to market, as broker-dealers, we must ensure our clients are given the tools and information to adequately participate. How will we package and position these opportunities as formidable wealth creation opportunities, and how will we ensure the base of the market is sufficiently broadened with varying options to suit the appetites of different investors? How is NCB Capital Markets playing its role in this regard? Ladies and gentlemen, I have the distinct honor of announcing that NCB Capital Markets has reaffirmed our commitment to being the title sponsor of this conference for the next 5 years. Being fairly new to my role as CEO of NCB Capital Markets and as a director of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, and having made Jamaica my home for the last 13 months, I try to bring a fresh pair of eyes and ears, and it is my intention to use the office that I hold to make sure that this conference continues to evolve so that every year it is more impactful than the year before. Truth is, as broker-dealers, we are capital allocators. To me, NCB Capital Markets' sponsorship of this conference means that we've allocated capital, and thus we are very vested with an ownership mindset. And with this mindset, we have to ensure that our stakeholders benefit from our involvement. For instance, one aspiration would be to have more issuers and potential issuers attend, and for us broker-dealers to demonstrate, perhaps through transaction showcasing, how capital markets are a viable option to traditional banking. To this end, we at NCB would endorse and champion the introduction of an element or elements of this conference that further educate the markets about the types of deals, both debt and equity, and celebrate the innovation captured in some of these opportunities. NCB Capital Markets, and by extension, the NCB Financial Group, continues to put at its forefront a mandate to make wealth creation the strategic priority of our business. In 2019, we celebrated the launch of our Go IPO platform, with which revolutionized and digitalized the IPO application process. We extended that capability to the Trinidad and Tobago market, which then saw us executing the first SME IPO in 5 years in that market in 2024. This ethos of wealth creation being made accessible to the average investor has driven us even further. We want to see more participation in capital markets going forward, and so we are making wealth and investments easy to access and understand. Throughout the course of this conference, you will hear more about our exciting new tool to democratize access to the investor education by the average investor. We will be launching a new WhatsApp-based investment risk profiler and asset allocator in the market. It is our hope that by making investment choices easy to access by Mr. Joe while waiting on a bus, or for that young professional just entering the market, that wealth creation would be demystified for the next generation. We laud the government of Jamaica for the bold stances to move the capital markets forward through the increase in the capital-based ceiling of companies waiting to list on the junior market. There is no doubt that the broker-dealer community, and most importantly, potential entrants to the stock market, will feel more incentivized to participate in the market given these two postures. As a result, NCB Capital Markets are excited and mobilized to help the business community to tap this opportunity going forward, whether through APOs or IPOs. In closing, while we pause to reflect on the past 20 years of this conference, let us look forward as we envision a future where the broker-dealer community truly owns the goal of securing the investability of Jamaica. We want to make Jamaica investable from a global perspective. As we work together to secure this reality, and as one of the individuals leading the industry, I envision a day where capital in Switzerland or Dubai or similar economies can find a home here in Jamaica and the Caribbean region. There is no motherland coming to save us if we screw up. This is why we must adopt the ownership mindset towards the development of the capital markets. We are here in this position today because those before us made more good than bad decisions, and we step on their shoulders to rise to a new level. We have to own this vision going forward because it's ours, and we have to think long-term and to make sure those that step on our shoulders tomorrow do so in a better position than us today, and do so with pride, knowing that we did a fantastic job in setting the stage for them. It is my hope that broker-dealers always act in the best interests of Jamaica and the other Caribbean territories, because as people who are indigenous to our region, we must adopt the ownership mindset, and in so doing, always act in the best interest of our stakeholders, investors, and citizens. Thank you.
Thank you too, Angus Young, and for that forward-looking presentation. And kudos to NCB for spotting a good thing when they see it. 5 more years, that's good news. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is a true friend of Jamaica. Tonight, he's here to help us navigate the global financial landscape at a pivotal moment in history. Following the inauguration last night of one of the most talked about US presidents, the world is watching closely. What will a Trump-led America mean for Jamaica's economy, opportunities, and financial strategies? Those are big questions. To help us unpack the trends, policies, and possibilities, please welcome the Managing Director and Head of Emerging Markets, Fixed Income, and Wealth Management at Jefferies, our good friend, Gregory Fisher.
Good evening and Happy New Year to all. On behalf of my colleagues at Jefferies, once again, a heartfelt welcome to this year's Jamaica Stock Exchange. The Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica. The Honorable Mr. Diggins St. Kitts. Steve Whittingham, Chairman of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. My dear friend, Marlene Street-Forrest, and other honored dignitaries, guests here this evening, and all other protocols fully acknowledged, welcome. Tonight marks a special evening for both me as well as the Jamaica Stock Exchange. 2 decades ago, Marlene Street first approached me about the idea of having a special Jamaica Stock Exchange conference whereby important topics could be discussed over a period of 2 days. Important topics surrounding and affecting the newly evolving sector here in Jamaica back in 2005. Marlene asked if I would entertain being a lead sponsor some 20 years ago and help her in the formation of what has now become a yearly event that so many look forward to. I guess, as I say, the rest is history, but once again, it's my pleasure to stand up here after all these terrific years in the past. And Marlene, I can't thank you from the bottom of my heart anymore. Thank you. As we embark here in 2025, it brings great solace to this conference, as always, with some shine of some needed rays of hope and excitement during these challenging global times that we all now face. At Jefferies, we continue to remain a partner of this terrific conference, as well as being totally committed to the entire Caribbean region. It has always been an honor over the past 20 years to give a few remarks during the opening ceremony of this conference. And it's always a pleasure to once again be down here in Kingston, the city I personally have called my second home for nearly 4 decades. As Managing Director of Jefferies, my mandate is to serve our clients with the absolute best we have to offer as a firm. At Jefferies, we continue to pool our talent and our resources to create the best workable solutions for our clients. The global markets continue to evolve at light speed pace that I have not seen in 41 years that I've been in the investment business. But at Jefferies, we take pride in creating new opportunities for our clients, and ways of doing business. At Jefferies, we are talent-driven, we are visionaries with core values, but most of all, we are client-focused. In short, our primary focus is to deliver for our clients throughout the globe. Before I dive right on in a little bit about the current global markets, and I don't know if I'm going to address all the issues about the new administration due to compliance of Jefferies, I do have to always tell you that these are my own opinions, and they may or may not reflect those of Jefferies LLC. Anybody that's been here in the past has heard me say this. It's one of these preambles that I must say. Having just returned a few days ago from Asia, I was reminded that 2025 is the Chinese Year of the Snake. And given these immense volatile markets since the end of last year, that label seems rather fitting to me. It is perceived that the years of the snake bring obstacles and generally prove to be transformational. Considering the prior years with this very same label was 1929, 1941, 1953, 1965, 77, 89, and 2001 were all years of either war, economic maladies, recession, or political or financial instability. The average move in the S&P in the past years of the year of the snake was down 5%. So let's all hope and pray that we are going to take that head off the snake. I'm hoping for the best, and I'll let you in on a little secret, however. I am a historian at heart, and I'm a bit superstitious as well. Regardless of what 2025 will bring from both an overall economic perspective, I would like to read a quote in Barron's a few weeks ago. And I quote, "Parties, after all, are often followed by deep hangovers." After 2 years of stellar U.S. stock performance on the heels of AI craze, I believe that as seasoned investors, we should be expecting far less momentum trading and should be expecting far more normalized returns here in 2025. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm a bit doubtful that the S&P can post a three-peat of 20-plus returns since 3 years ago. Putting the year of snake aside for a moment, one thing is a given. The U.S. Fed will continue to normalize rates, maybe a bit slower than we all thought a few months ago, but they will still be lowering rates, and that's exactly why I continue to believe that locking in yields when the Fed is accommodating has always proven to be a great trade. However, given all the moving parts to this uncharted global landscape, patience will also be needed no matter what sort of securities you feel comfortable owning when it comes to investing in general here in 2025. From my perspective, it seems that investors willing to play the markets today seem to be rationalizing that they will never sell because of the types of returns they have experienced over the past few years. However, from my perspective, current earnings growth in the U.S. are just a little too lofty, so I continue to remain in a defensive posture because of my own past experience. To me, it really seems like deja vu all over again, memories I personally saw during the internet craze of the late 90s that led to the dot-com bubble. The internet, like AI, was a real game changer for sure. But when the markets price in all the upside valuations at once, history does tend to repeat itself. True, the AI stocks are real companies with solid earnings growth, unlike the internet companies back in the 90s. But the market's primal emotion seems unrealistic and unsustainable levels, in my opinion. In other words, the current market, to me, are pricing in most assets to be riskless. Sure, AI is indeed a real game changer, but all the expected revenue generation has quickly been built into current equity valuations even before AI has really hit its stride. There are many other seasoned market veterans like me who are currently warning investors not to expect equity returns topping 20% like we saw in the last 2 years, but few are ready to call an end to the AI-fueled stock boom. Listen, I'm not even willing to call that end myself. I think I'm a believer the near-term upside with these stocks are great, but the bulging valuations are tough to be sustainable. I have learned the hard way that when momentum markets prevail over fundamentals, corrections can be torrid and quick, just like I witnessed back in 2000. And for this very reason, I do remain a bit pensive. I've seen this rodeo before, and I probably will never participate in these speculative environments to the upside. But I can tell you one thing, I will remain insulated and defensive, so when the markets revert back to the mean, as they always tend to do, I will be enjoying some very restful nights in Atlanta while others lie awake. I underscore my thoughts here by saying many analysts on the street, in my opinion, have set the bar a bit too high in 2025. Put simply, to me, bonds look cheap, stocks look a bit expensive here in the early trading days of 2025. Finally, a little history that I have personally witnessed is in order. Ronald Reagan got elected as president in 1980, and I see a lot of you are probably going to have to Google that out there, just a few short years before I entered the business. The S&P shot up nearly 9% in the ensuing weeks since the election, with the animal spirits running wild, much like they did when President Trump won the U.S. election in last November. However, the S&P 500 peaked soon after Reagan took office and subsequently rolled over down 10% just a few weeks after he took the oath. And just as in the case today, Reagan assumed the office of the presidency on the heels of a stubborn inflation that had consumed the prior administration. It went down actually another 10%, making an official bear market in the first 6 months of the new Reagan administration. By the way, like today, if I would have told you that back in 1980 when Reagan took the oath, they would have took me out on a gurney to the insane asylum. I'm giving you this history lesson because it was kind of scary to me how President Trump was compared to Reagan when he rang the bell at the opening of the New York Stock Exchange before the holidays. It goes to show you that nobody, not even the toughest presidents, are larger and meaner than Mother Nature. Rather, history has always taught me that nothing can stop a normalized market cycle that always reverts to the mean. The U.S. economy is indeed strong, and hopefully the new Trump administration will prevail in the long run, just as Reagan did. But 2025 still looks a bit precarious to me. And as a side note, if you had bought solid bonds back when Reagan took office, it would have been the trade of a decade. So I think stocks will not have the hefty return that we saw in 2023 and 24. But for those that do buy stocks, stock selection here in 25 will be crucial to one's respective portfolio. As far as bonds, I'm a believer that the Fed will see weakening data appear towards the end of Q1 and pivot again, and subsequently they'll end up cutting more, in my opinion, their two rates that have been previously telegraphed for this year. I believe if an investor has patience, solid fixed income securities will be the trade here in this new year. Regardless, stay utterly diversified and defensive, to me, remains paramount in these types of uncharted waters. I do recognize that all exponentially rising markets go further than I always think, and obviously that this one is no different than others. I saw this in the past, but I also learned that these sorts of manias do not correct sideways either, and the current massive equity exposures out there, in my humble opinion, scares me. It only makes this ongoing soft landing narrative that much more a fantasy more than an inevitable reality. Again, artificial intelligence is indeed a real game changer, but this utter sense of complacency and herd mentality has me unnerved currently. And with a huge concentration in the silos of equity space, it is for this reason that I do fully remain a bond bull. If you go back to April 2008, the then Fed cut minus 25 bips, but signaled a pauses were coming. So they made that hawkish cut that we just saw back in December of this year, of 24. After April in 2028, the Fed did not cut again for another 5 months on the mistaken belief that everything was aligned properly with reviewing their dual mandate. The hawkish cut sent the 10-year bond up 50 basis points and was truly painful back then, as it has been in the beginning here up till today in 2025. However, if you bought fixed income and bonds back then and were patient, that outperformed the S&P 500. Finally, I'm not suggesting do not buy stocks. Believe it or not, and not to diversify. On the contrary, I'm a full believer in portfolio diversification. But given this frothy valuations to me, it makes far more sense to focus on solid stocks with dividends as well as security-centric fixed income, thus creating a well-balanced defensive portfolio after these past few years of record returns. Look, when I see countries such as Germany, I just came back from China, the UK, they all currently have economic challenges. It's been my experience that only a matter of time before these sorts of maladies spread somewhat through the globe. And from my vantage point, the US market seems to be getting a little tired in the beginning days of 2025. So remember, when you see volatility that we've seen, have respect for what the markets are trying to tell you. That sort of volatility is not normal. Now, I'd like to make some comments about Jamaica, which is the favorite part of me being up here, and the rest of the emerging markets. Emerging market debt had what I flippantly describe as an okay year in 2024. The NB Global Diversified Benchmark returned a positive 6.54% for the year. With the underlying treasury yields rising, the sovereign credit spreads tightening moderately, allowing for positive overall total return for the index. However, it was somewhat bifurcated market by ways of credit quality. Investment grade returns, which are relatively more linked to US Treasuries, were basically flat. The high yield component of the benchmark returned an impressive plus 13%. Junk rated countries emerging from debt restructuring, similar to where Jamaica was 10 years ago, were the top performers. These are countries like Argentina, Ecuador, Sri Lanka, Zambia, among others. Unfortunately, or fortunately, Jamaica no longer fits that high yielding category. Although still rated low double B by the major agencies, all of these ratings have positive outlooks and are likely to go higher in the future. I would be remiss if I did not mention that in addition to lowering its post-COVID debt to GDP from 94% to 73%, a feat that most countries, including developed countries, have yet to carry out, Jamaica also named its first female Minister of Finance, the Honorable Favour Williams. Given all these facts, the market is already pricing Jamaica at or near investment grade. And this part is important. Jamaica international bonds are behaving more like their investment grade counterparties these days than the rest of the emerging markets. So further spread compression will be difficult. Jamaica bonds returns are more likely to be governed by the underlying movement in US Treasuries going forward. The bad news is that Jamaica bonds are not currently attractive to international investors right now, given their tight spreads, despite positive economic policy trajectory and an NIR fast approaching $5 billion. The good news is that Jamaica bonds are now more to be likely viewed by the international community as a real safe haven for investors. Thank you. I've been coming down here for over 35 years. I've seen a lot, including the financial crisis, restructurings, and I don't say that lightly, that statement, that where Jamaica is considered now a safe haven credit. That has taken some real heavy lifting. What an accomplishment to Jamaica's ongoing fiscal stewardship and its impressive leadership. I do think the marketplace would welcome more corporate and quasi-sovereign issuance out of Jamaica, and given the most recent positive transactions, as Agnes alluded to, surrounding Kingston Manley Airport, few could disagree with my assessment here. Finally, there could also be some more demand from international investors for Jamaica dollar paper, as Jamaica's monetary and fiscal policy settings continue to be very solid under the current administration. You have all heard me say this in the past, and I'm not being political, but kudos to you, Mr. Prime Minister. I certainly have rambled on long enough, and I made a remark to the Prime Minister that we usually see one another in airplanes, not here in person. Many times we cross paths while traveling. But on behalf of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, as well as my colleagues at Jefferies, I trust you will enjoy the next few days. I'm excited about this conference, and I hope we all continue to thrive this conference going forward on the heels of what Dr. Marlene Street-Forrest has created. Thank you.
And thank you too, Gregory Fisher, for your usual thought-provoking insights. And of course, over the next 3 days, we'll be able to have some one-on-one with Jeffrey, so I'm sure you can something else you can also look forward to. Now, we've had an extraordinary evening so far. Now it's time to relax a bit and enjoy some entertainment before we move to the next part of our program. Earlier, we were moved by a stirring rendition of our national anthem. This next performer's versatile talent spans classical, jazz, reggae, and folk music. You know, he has proudly represented Jamaica across the globe and has showcased our rich culture on the global stages. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, and enjoy Steve Higgins.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, Lord. Michael, help. Michael, you gonna help me? Good evening, everyone. Oh, that sounds better. Thank you, I got this. Those who have flown in, good evening, Mr. Prime Minister. Good evening, Dr. Street-Forrest. Those who have flown into Jamaica for this event, may I see your hands, please? Wow, okay. And those who are resident here in Jamaica, may I see your hands, please? All right, so I have a photographic memory, and you're gonna help me with this first song to welcome the other people, because what we're gonna do is a Jamaican welcome song. Is that okay? Hello? All right, let's do this. More. This a long time, can we never see you, come make me hold your hand. This a long time, can we never see you, come make me hold your hand. Everybody, we let John Ross sit on the treetop, pick up the blossom, make me hold your hand, girl, make me hold your hand. This a long time, can we never see you, come make me walk and talk. This a long time, can we never see you, come make me walk and talk. We let John Cross sit on the treetop, pick up a blossom, make me hold your hand, girl, make me hold your hand. This a long time, girl, we never see you, come make a wheel and turn. This a long time, girl, we never see you, come make a wheel and turn. We let John Cross sit on the treetop, pick up a blossom, make me hold your hand, girl, make me hold your hand. Make a wheel and turn to the tumble down, make me hold your hand, girl. Make a wheel and turn to the tumble down, make me hold your hand, girl. Thank you, but I didn't hear you singing. Turn that up for me, please. Let's see if you'll know this one. When the rhythm start to play, dance with me, make me sway. Like the lazy ocean hugs the shore, hold me close, sway me more. Like the flowers bending in the breeze, bend with me, stay with me. When you dance, you have your way with me, stay with me, sway with me. All the dances may be on the floor, dear, but my eyes will see only you have that magic technique when you swear I go weak. I can hear the sound of violence long before it begins. Make me feel as only you know how. Sway me smooth, sway me now. That's it, dancing in your seats. That's a good start. Dancers meet me on the Lord. Dear, that my eyes will see only you. Only you have that magic technique. When you sway, I go weak. I can hear the sound of violence long before it begins. Make me feel as only you know how. Sway me smooth, sway me now. Make me feel as only you know how. Sway me smooth, sway me now. Sway me now. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, so this one, you're going to help me sing this one. Let's go. Everybody knows this one. Everybody. And you know this one too. Can't find it? Coconut. 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 We remember Harry Belafonte with this one, okay? Coconut woman is calling out, and every day you can hear her shout. Coconut woman is calling out, and every day you can hear her shout. Get your coconut water, man is good for your daughter. Coca have a lot of iron, make you strong like a lion. I let it tell me the other day that no one can take her sweet love away. I asked her, what is the mystery? She said, coconut water and rice curry. You can stir it in the pot. Man, you stir it very hot. Coca have a lot of iron. Make you strong like a lion. When I put my hand up in the air, I'm not drying my nails. You're to sing coconut. Turn up the music, just listen to me. Listen to me. Coconut. Let me hear the coconut. Good. Coconut woman, say you'll agree. Coca make a very, very nice candy. The thing to have when you're feeling glum. Coconut water with a little white rum. It will make you tipsy. Make you feel like a gypsy. Coca have a lot of iron. Make you strong like a lion. I hear you, but you still sound like you're in church. Church people drink rum sometimes, you know. Right, Prime Minister? Watch him. Coconut woman is calling out, and every day you can hear her shout. Coconut woman is calling out, and every day you can hear her shout. Get your coconut water, man is good for your daughter. Coca have a lot of iron, make you strong like a lion. It will make you tipsy, make you feel like a gypsy. Coca have a lot of iron, make you strong like a lion. It will make you handy, make you feel so dandy. Coca have a lot of iron, make you strong like a lion. Coconut. All right. Oh, you like that one? You have love? This is for the ladies. Gentlemen, help me sing this one. the seas. Darling, so it goes. Some things were meant to be. So take my hand, take my whole life too, for I can't help falling in love with you. Like a river flows surely to the seas, darling, so it goes. Some things were meant to be. So take my hand, take my whole life too, for I can't help falling in love with you. For I can't help falling in love with you.
Oh, you like that one too, eh? Ready again. So I'm gonna, 1 second please, sir. This one is dedicated to Dr. Marlene Street-Forrest. Everybody saying, oh. This lady has done so much for Jamaica and for Jamaica's Stock Exchange, hasn't she? Hasn't she? And we celebrate her today, right? Putting you on the spot, Doc. All right, so let's go.
To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to strive when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to strive for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for that heavenly cause. And I know if I only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lay peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest, and the world will be better for this. That one girl, scorned and covered with scars, still strove with her last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star.
I thank you. I will end with this one. Did you know that next month, on the 6th of February, will be Bob Marley's 80th birthday? Would have been. Did you know that? Sing with me now. Everybody knows this one, right? Don't worry about a thing. Hello? 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. I tell you, don't worry about a thing. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Rise up this morning with my eyes to the rising sun. 3 little birds beside my doorstep, singing sweet songs, a melody pure and true. Singing, this is my message to you. I tell you, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. I tell you, don't worry about a thing. Don't you worry about a thing, no, every little thing is gonna be alright. Rise up this morning with my eyes to the rising sun. 3 little birds beside my doorstep, singing sweet songs, a melody pure and true. Singing, this is my message to you. Sing with me now, please. I tell you, don't worry. Good, I hear you. About a thing. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. I tell you, don't worry about a thing. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Chorus again. I tell you, don't worry about a thing. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Thank you very much. I'm Steve Higgins. It has been a pleasure.
One good thing about Steve Higgins, when he sings, you feel no pain. Steve Higgins, ladies and gentlemen. That was a nice, pleasant change there. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to introduce once again someone I've had the pleasure of welcoming several times over the years to this conference. And you know, each time he brings a fresh perspective and an undeniable sense of purpose that has shaped Jamaica's journey forward. He's not just a leader, but someone who continues to strive for what's possible for our nation. With his recent achievement of earning a doctorate, he adds even more academic depth to his leadership. I don't know what his thesis statement was, but if I had to guess, I'd say it might have been titled Strengthening an Economy while Creating Growth Opportunities. How's that? It perfectly sums up what we've seen in recent years, and given that Dr. Nigel Clark, our former Minister of Finance, now serves as the Deputy Managing Director of the IMF, we might just be the only country where the economy anchors of our government come with diplomas to prove it. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Prime Minister Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Michael Holness.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much. Thank you. This is maybe my, well, certainly my my 9th year addressing the Stock Exchange Conference as Prime Minister. And I have addressed it in other capacities. So maybe I've done 15 years of the 20 years. And I have not missed one of the last 10 years. Because this is a calendar event, a marquee event, and a very important event for setting the stage for the rest of the year when it comes to the economy. And as I survey the audience, I do see some familiar faces, faithful ones who come to the conference every year. But this year I'm also seeing many new faces. And Marlene, I must also say that the attendance this year is great. I'm sad, Marlene, that you're going. And I'm sure it's the sentiment of everyone who has interacted with you. You're such a lovely person. But don't worry, we will find something for you to do. Welcome, Minister Duggan, or Duggins, forgive me. Let me acknowledge members of the diplomatic corps who are here, and our newly minted Minister of Finance and her husband. You know, I must commend Stephen Whittingham for his presentation. It is clear that he has been following what I've been saying. I've been preaching this issue of productivity now for the last 3 years. It is part of the pivot and the next chapter. And I'm very happy when I hear senior executives of business speak so passionately about productivity. It is a subject that we speak about in low tones, almost fearful, lest we touch on social corns, as we call it. But it is something that we will have to confront as a nation, this issue of productivity. And I'm very happy that you have dealt with it here, and I hope that our media will take the presentation, it is a presentation of substance, and that our journalists who we depend on will analyze it and further explain it to the population, the importance of productivity. Angus, as usual, your presentation is a very powerful one, and I note that whilst you were being very diplomatic in saying that the government is supporting the development of the market and bringing new products and helping the financial sector to bring new products to the market, I know you're really saying the government should do more. It is such a pleasure to be here at the 20th staging of the Regional Investment and Capital Market Conference. Over the past 2 decades, this conference has become the signature calendar event for the investment and capital markets industry and epitomizes the dynamism and resilience of the financial sector, not only in Jamaica, but in the Caribbean region. I always make it a point to be here because of the significance I place on this event. As we embark on this new year, it is fitting to reflect on Jamaica's economic journey, a story of resilience, determination, and transformation. A decade ago, our nation faced daunting economic challenges. We had very high debt levels, high unemployment, volatile inflation, exchange rate instability, and minimal or no growth. I get the feeling that we have forgotten about that. We are in a new normal. Today, that new normal, we stand as a testament to the power of prudential management, strategic reforms, and the indomitable spirit of our people. Let me do a quick comparison of some key macroeconomic variables which will cement the point of how we have moved from instability to stability, from crisis to now being on the launch pad for growth. In 2016, our debt to GDP was approximately 120%. Today, we are projecting that at the end of this fiscal year, in March 2025, we will be 68.8% debt to GDP. This is the lowest we would have been since the 1970s. I want us to appreciate the economic journey. We're just getting back to where we were in the 1970s. Unemployment in 2016 was 13.7%. Unemployment today is now 3.6%, the lowest it has been in our history. Youth unemployment, when I took office, was at 32%. Now, it is at 10.4%. Since 2016, we have created 245,000 new jobs. This is at an average of 28,000 new jobs per year. Before that, we were creating maybe 15,000 jobs on average per year. Average annual inflation since my administration took office has been 5.7%, even with the COVID spike, 5.7%. This is after I've said the COVID spike, and we had that spike for approximately 3 years. And this is the lowest average annual inflation that has been achieved by any government since 1972. In the year immediately before we took office in 2016, the Jamaican dollar depreciated by 5.4% relative to the US dollar. In the last 12 months, the Jamaican dollar has depreciated 0.9%. In fact, the annual average rate of depreciation of the Jamaican dollar relative to the US dollar for the entire duration of my administration has been 2.9%. Again, this is the lowest rate of currency depreciation by far under any political administration since 1972, the year I was born. This exchange rate stability did not happen by chance or by good fortune. We have exchange rate stability because of two factors. One, we are now running a balance of payment surplus on our current account. In fiscal year 2022-2023, we achieved a balance of payment surplus of US $345 million, or 1.9% of GDP. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the first time Jamaica recorded a balance of payment surplus since 1966. However, this was not just a one-off occurrence. In the 2023-2024 financial year, we again recorded a surplus of US $610 million, or 3.1% of GDP. We have a very robust foreign exchange reserve right now. Our net international reserves when we took office was somewhere in a region of about $2.3 billion. At the end of December 2024, our reserve, Gregory, stands at $5.6 billion US dollars. Again, the highest ever in our history. And I'm going to return to that point because when I say these things, sometimes our public listening will say, you have all of this money in reserve. Why don't you use it to do something? Without understanding that if you take away the reserves, you take away the stability. It is the reserves that gives the stability. And in a highly politicized environment, especially when information is not always accurately interpreted, you can have perverse outcomes. And so I have to take the time sometimes to remind the public of why it is we make the fiscal decisions that we make, that ultimately it is for the benefit of you, the consumer, the household. If we make bad economic decisions, even if they seem to bring short-term relief, you are going to pay for it dearly in the long run. So, another point that I would wish to emphasize to this gathering of investors is that Jamaica is the only country in the region with no foreign exchange controls and a freely floating market-determined exchange rate. Yeah. Investors will appreciate that. This is a place to come and do business. Our external credit rating, as measured by Standard & Poor's, has improved by 7 notches from the lowest level of SD, selective default, in 2013 to BB minus. We are now just 3 notches away from achieving investment grade. And if you listen carefully to what Gregory said, it is clear that our bonds are behaving as if, or rather the market is treating our bonds as if they are safe harbor for investment grade. Can you imagine coming from selective default, being viewed as the economic basket case of the region? Clap yourself. Just today, I had sight of the results of the latest Business and Consumer Confidence Survey. The index of business confidence has surged to 149.3 points in the fourth quarter of 2024, an increase of 12.9% over the previous quarter and 7.3% overall for the year, or rather 7.3% over last year. In fact, the index is at the highest level since the pandemic and less than 2 points shy of its all-time high of 151 points, which was set in Q1 2019. Nearly 70% of firms consider it a good time for investment, up from 53% in the previous quarter. Now that tells you the resilience of the economy. Obviously, the previous quarter would have been impacted by Hurricane Beryl and other weather events that followed. But look how quickly confidence has recovered. Consumer confidence has rebounded in Q4 2024 with an increase of 4% over the previous quarter. Macroeconomic statistics, are one thing, but let us look at some other statistics. Let's take poverty. When my administration took office, the poverty prevalence was 21.4%. We reduced that to 11% in 2019. It shot up after 2019 to 21%. And we understand why. This was during the pandemic years. Now, the latest estimate is that poverty prevalence is about 12.3% in 2023. We expect that the next survey will have this below 11%. This is very important because in a society like Jamaica, where inequalities are considerable, it's one thing to preach to this audience about how well we are doing economically. It's another thing for the people who are struggling every day to recognize that the good economic results are translating into improvements for their everyday living. Let's look at the minimum wage. When we took office, the minimum wage was 6,200 Jamaican dollars or 51 US dollar per week. Now it is 15,000 Jamaican dollars per week or 96 US dollars per week. Not fantastic, but it is an improvement, and I can tell you there is more to come. This administration believes that we must share the economic progress and share it equitably. Our abiding mission is to lift people out of poverty. We must end absolute poverty in Jamaica. That is the abiding mission of this government. Let's talk about crime. I'm told I should mention this in an investor meeting, but there is nothing secret. You go on the internet, so let's deal with it and put it into context. Jamaica is improving its security. The challenge with the improvement in security is that it takes time for it to have an effect. I give you an analogy. Someone dropped in a pothole, and they called me. I spent 30 minutes on the phone with them. And I probably shouldn't say this, but I had to volunteer to replace a tire. Okay? 7 days after, please don't, I can't take any more calls. So 7 days after, the pothole was fixed. And I got a call to say, boy, Prime Minister, I see the work going, I see the roads being fixed, I like it. So fixing the pothole, fixing the roads, they have an immediate impact on the misery index. Almost immediate. But consider someone who lost a loved one to a murder. Even if I were to say the murder rate is cut in half, the perception lags. So the security issues take some time to take effect. And the truth is, the mobilization for security is far more complex than, let's say the mobilization to repair roads. So the security journey has been a long and arduous one. But we have made significant progress in the transformation of the JCF in leadership, manpower, and material. Significant. Their investigative capacity has increased significantly. Their intelligence capabilities have increased significantly. Our domain awareness and control capabilities have increased significantly. We have made massive investments. That is why you're seeing 2 years of reduction in murders. 7.5% the year before, and now almost 20% this year. And you will continue to see reductions as the JCF and the Jamaica Defense Force and the other security entities execute Plan Secure Jamaica, which we laid in 2016. And that is having an effect, a real impact. And the biggest measure of that is that we have cut the number of gangs from over 300 to now just under 170 active gangs. And we continue to degrade their capabilities. The biggest impact, of course, is that major crimes declined by 14% in 2023, and they are now 40% lower than they were in 2015. And in fact, we had a decline in major crimes in 2024 by about 8%. And in fact, in 2024, we are now reporting a crime level that is probably lower than what it was in 2002. So we are making significant impact on crime. The purpose of the comparison is to show that by any objective measure, Jamaica is in a fundamentally different place today than when my administration took office. No other nation in the world has matched the scale of Jamaica's economic turnaround in a decade. And I am not the only one saying that. Gregory Fisher just said it in probably more eloquent terms than I have. The country has made significant strides. We have transformed our economy. We must now move to transform our society, transform our infrastructure, transform our health, education, make Jamaica safe, and make Jamaica truly the place of choice for people to come and do business, but above all else, to make Jamaica an affordable place to live. So Jamaica's economic progress over the last decade has been remarkable, but growth remains below the level needed to achieve our full potential. Historically, periods of growth were followed by years of decline. Today, we experience sustained, consistent growth. Yes, we may have some interruptions. COVID, Hurricane Beryl. But immediately after, 1 or 2 quarters after, you see the recovery starting. So, before the pandemic, we achieved 20 consecutive quarters of growth, followed by 13 consecutive quarters post the pandemic. The decline in the July to September 2024 quarter caused by Hurricane Beryl and the likely impact of Tropical Storm Raphael and heavy rains in the October to December period are temporary setbacks. Now, I know some persons are heralding this as an harbinger of things to come. This is not so. The fundamentals of the Jamaican economy are strong. Despite these challenges, this represents the longest economic expansion in Jamaica's independent history. Longest period of expansion. However, growth remains anemic, averaging less than 1% per annum over the past decade. And that is the challenge. How do we take this economic stability and convert it into accelerated growth? That's the challenge. So as a small developing island state, our economy remains vulnerable to climatic events. And to achieve our national development goals, we must significantly accelerate growth to ensure a resilient and thriving future. That is what we mean when we say we're going to pivot. We're not going to take our foot off the step that we have planted it on, which is the fiscal responsibility and management of our economy and the stability. But we need to turn, as in the netball analogy, to face the goal. We need to make a turn to get onto another step, and that is the step of growth. And that is the pivot. That brings us to the next chapter. My administration is preparing to lead Jamaica into the next chapter. And we have given some definition as to what that chapter will look like. Having been on this path for the last decade, we can sometimes lose sight of the fact that stability was never the destination. Stability is the foundation. It is the foundation on which we will build. This is why in November 2024, I announced a pivot in our national economic policy direction, the pivot towards growth. The growth agenda comprises 6 key pillars, and the tagline that we're using of this pivot is Aspire. Access to economic opportunity for all, that is the inclusive growth agenda. Safety and security, we will continue to push safety and security. People, and our focus on human capital development. You know, Stephen mentioned labor productivity. That is what this is about. How do we build our human capital to produce more? And that is training and education. Infrastructure development. Jamaica has aging infrastructure caused by lack of consistent investment. In other words, we went through almost 4 decades of disinvestment in our infrastructure. And when aged infrastructure meets epiphenomenal climate events and weather events that are outside of the normal, the destruction it wreaks on the infrastructure is far greater than what would ordinarily occur, which is why we experience all of these potholes and landslides and roads breaking up. When you put those 2 things together, the only way to overcome that is to grow your economy very fast so that you can rebuild the infrastructure, not to the old standards, but rebuild the infrastructure to new standards that can withstand the impact of climate change. And that is what we're going to be doing in the next chapter. And then there is the reform of bureaucracy to improve ease, speed, and cost of doing business. You know, when the sociologists invented the term bureaucracy, it was not a pejorative. In fact, it was a compliment, especially for colonial governments, because they needed to have a bureaucracy to run an empire. And in fact, you really couldn't be an empire without a bureaucracy. Bureaucracy was such an important thing. But like everything else, they become self-indulgent. They exist solely to fulfill themselves. And it doesn't really matter that people who need to cross a bridge can't have the bridge. What matters is that you comply with all the rules in order to build that bridge. Oh God, that puts the politicians in a really difficult spot. Because the people in Troy want their bridge, but we have to get all the approvals before we can build the bridge. So the question for us is, how do we comply and at the same time become more efficient? You can't give up the compliance because that's another way in which the people won't get the bridge. But then the other question is, how do you increase the speed, change the processes, remove unnecessary regulations so that the compliance is easier, so that the people get the bridge? And we have spent a lot of years in the last decade putting on all kinds of new legislation. We have layered very thickly regulations and all kinds of legislation, which may not all be relevant or properly aligned. It needs to be rethought. It needs to be re-engineered. And that is an entire process that government has to get involved in. And that is a part of our bureaucracy reform. We're not anti-bureaucracy. We are for efficient bureaucracy. And by the way, Jamaica is not the only country going through that. There is something called Doge or Dodge or and then economic diversification and development of new industries. If we're going to grow, we cannot continue to rely on the 5 or so pillars of our economy. We have to branch out into new areas. And we're going to have to be fearless in branching out into these new areas. You know, we are a service-based economy. And we're a service-based economy largely because the cost of energy is high. We have to figure out how to get the cost of energy lower in Jamaica so that we can build out more manufacturing-based industries. So some people hear me talk about, oh, nuclear, and it's all, you know, why are we thinking about nuclear? Well, you have to think about renewables. Thankfully, the price of renewables, particularly solar, is coming down rapidly. Technology is improving. Battery capabilities are improving. But it's not going to give you the quantum that you need. And as nuclear technology is receiving now greater interest and new investment because of AI, that new investment will deliver a new era of nuclear technology in small modular nuclear reactors. It's not there yet, but it is going to take Jamaica 10 to 20 years to build up the human resource capacity to be able to manage SMRs. So let us not think small and think that we can't do it. We have a very small nuclear reactor at the University of the West Indies for over 30 years there. We are building a small nucleus of scientists there who can manage it. But if we're really going to think about Jamaica as an economic powerhouse, we have to solve the energy issue. And let's face it, I read somewhere where I see Microsoft or Google, one of them, is planning to take over an old nuclear plant and run it, a company. Come on, we have the capabilities. Recently, I was in New York and I met a young lady, and she said to me, Prime Minister, I'm a nuclear scientist. I work for the government of the United States, and I would really want to come to Jamaica to help with a nuclear program here. We have to start to think in that regard. Yes, there are challenges. Yes, there are problems. But let us not close the door on it. Let's think about it very carefully. Let's develop the capacity and put ourselves in a position that should the technology become feasible, we are at the head of the line to implement. And that's why we have taken steps to form partnerships with Canada to start to train our people to develop the capacity here. And even if we don't have a small modular nuclear reactor, having nuclear technical skills is still very good for our economy, for science, and in other areas. But the real diversification has to come from our people. Other countries have oil, they have gold, they have ports and canals. Jamaica has people. That's our goal. And for years we have been exporting that gold to other countries. Jamaica is a net exporter of talent to the world. There is a change for the next 4 years at least, Let me say no more. We face a problem here in Jamaica where, when I say that we have a labor shortage, for some people they are shocked. Because around their community, they see a lot of young men digging holes in their hand mills. They see a lot of young men unemployed and young women underemployed or not doing anything. But that's precisely why we have a labor shortage. Because we need skilled, trained labor into the workforce. So the investment in getting all our potential labor force trained, that is going to be the focus in the next chapter. Because we need to have not just low-level service, but we have to get higher-level services in order to grow the economy. The financial sector is one area in which we can expand rapidly and bring in more higher-level services. And in fact, we can make it an export industry. The services, the persons providing the services reside here, but do work remotely for people all over the world and companies and corporations all over the world. We have it now, we call it the BPO, the global services sector, but we must improve the level of skills to get higher value services to bring in greater revenues into the country. And that is going to be a target focus for the government in the next chapter. So Aspire is designed to create a virtuous cycle of peace, productivity, and prosperity. At its core, it is the recognition that growth must be inclusive, equitable, and resilient. We envision a Jamaica where every citizen, regardless of their background or circumstances, has the opportunity to thrive. Let me be clear. This pivot to growth does not in any way mean that we're going to abandon fiscal prudence. I have to say that, because I don't want any misinterpretation. We will never go back to the days of run with it, not under my watch. We have worked too hard and sacrificed too much as a country to ever go back to that. Good fiscal management and macroeconomic stability are now business as usual for my administration. We have been putting out quite a bit of information on some of the pillars of Aspire. We've talked a lot about security, infrastructure. I believe we need to see a little bit more on skills. But I want to focus this evening on improving the ease and cost of doing business. Reducing red tape and bureaucracy is central to Jamaica's growth agenda. To achieve rapid economic growth, we aim to become the most business-friendly and citizen-focused country in the region. Many current approval, permitting, and regulatory processes were designed during a period of fiscal constraint. And that is the reality. With our debt to GDP ratio now significantly reduced, it is time to streamline these systems. We will simplify approvals, reduce wait times, and eliminate outdated barriers and unnecessary layers of bureaucracy. This effort benefits not only large investors, but also micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. Efficient government processes will also make it easier and faster for citizens to interact with public agencies. We are determined to end the outdated notion that efficiency compromises quality. Or put it another way, if it didn't take long to be done, it wasn't done well. We are the country of the fastest man alive. We must translate that speed on the track to the speed of doing business. To drive this transformation, I will appoint the Speed Task Force, streamlining processes for efficiency and economic development. Speed. And we will do that by the end of February. The task force will identify bottlenecks, recommend actionable solutions, and deliver tangible outcomes within specified timelines. Whether through a single team or a rotating group of focused individuals on specific areas, the mechanism will ensure Jamaica's business environment meets world-class standard. We are aiming for business at the speed of thought. We are implementing a phased process of digitalizing government services that interface with businesses and citizens. The days of standing in long lines and navigating through mountains of paperwork will come to an end. We will be rolling out end-to-end digital systems for business registration, tax filing, and permit approvals. Our e-government platforms will be designed to ensure that e-services are accessible anytime, anywhere, and on any device. The foundation upon which all of these digital services will be built is the new Digital National Identification, which has already gone live and is scheduled for full rollout early this year. I got my NIDS card, and I give you a little joke. So I got my NIDS card, the Governor General got his, and a few others in the pilot phase. And some other persons have gotten. So one person who got the NIDS card went to the bank with the NIDS card. And the teller took the card and said, "Is what is?" Stephen, you're laughing. You know, there will always be some skepticism, some fear of technology, some resistance. Let me say that the NIDS card by law is the only identification you need if you present it. It is the national identification card. So once you present that card, no bank, no other entity should be asking you to present some other form of identification. It is the most comprehensive and robust identification system that Jamaica has. The technology behind it is cutting edge, and it is the foundation on which we will build the digital society. The government is modernizing Jamaica's legislative and regulatory framework to position the country as an international business and financial service hub. Recent legislation has raised the participating share capital limit for the junior stock exchange, the junior market companies, from 500 million to 750 million. You mentioned that. Reflecting strong support for this market, which now boasts 48 listed companies with a market capitalization of $148.5 billion as at December 2004. I believe somebody was whispering to me, when is it going to take effect? So the legislation has been passed in the lower house. It goes to the Senate on Friday. I'm certain it will pass the Senate there. And then it goes to the Governor General for his royal assent. And then it becomes law. So within a matter of days, that will be the new share capital limit. While Jamaica already has a robust financial sector, further modernization is essential to meet international standards. The Jamaica International Financial Services Authority, JIFSA, and I just pause here to say that from my first time in cabinet, which was in 2007, by 2009, we said we were going to establish Jamaica as an international financial service center. To this day, it has not happened. We have passed a lot of legislation. I can't blame that totally on bureaucracy. Much of it is policy drift. Sometimes governments say they're going to do it, lack of commitment, and it doesn't get done, intervening circumstances. But as I stand here today, it is our intention to ensure that we complete the legislative framework to ensure that Jamaica can become an international financial service center. We have passed the Partnership General Act. We have passed the Partnership Limited Act. We have passed the Trust Act. We have passed the Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act and the Segregated Account Companies Act. And the final piece that we now need to pass is the Limited Liabilities Company Act, and this is being refined to align with global standards. This act aims to provide a more business-friendly framework than the Companies Act, which what we will do is make this new act familiar to the global community. This legislative suite reflects the government's commitment to creating a modern business environment that supports both local and foreign enterprises while ensuring compliance with global standards. It will offer new business structures, attract investments, and solidify Jamaica's place as an international business hub. I want to talk a little bit about tax reform. Reforming Jamaica's tax system, including customs, is a critical focus of our government for sustainable economic growth. Despite facing the worst global health and economic crisis in a century, my administration has delivered 9 consecutive budgets with no new taxes. Read my lips. 9 consecutive budgets with no new taxes. Not even a tax on imported food items. But alongside that, we have given significant tax reductions and tax giveback, a remarkable achievement for a developing country. First time ever that we have given a tax giveback recently, and people are still getting it. We are committed to further simplifying tax structures and streamlining processes to reduce compliance burdens and foster growth. Expanding online tax payment systems and tax administration services are key steps. Additionally, tax incentives and regulations are being reviewed to enhance competitiveness and drive sustainable economic growth. And these are some key initiatives. We are exploring tax legislation to incentivize the repatriation of businesses, including their activities, associated assets and profits to Jamaica. So we know that there are many Jamaican companies that have chosen to domicile in various other jurisdictions. We want to bring you back home, and we will make it very favorable for you to do so. We are moving forward with the long talked about project to consolidate the various payroll taxes into a single payroll tax deduction. Again, this started in 2007, and it meandered through administrations, just didn't get done. I remember when it was first posited by former Prime Minister Bruce Golding. We are now well on our way to have it done. In fact, I've given the tax authorities a deadline. I won't say the deadline publicly yet, but they have a deadline. And I received an update from the Ministry of Finance and the Tax Administration of Jamaica on the project, and we are targeting implementation of this by January 2026. So by January 2026, we should have the single social contribution payroll system established. But I've given them an earlier deadline to make sure that the system is actually up. We are exploring an increase in the threshold at which small businesses need to register and account for GCT. In 2019, my administration increased the threshold from 3 million Jamaican dollars to 10 million Jamaican dollars, and we are looking at a further increase to remove this burden from small businesses. we are looking at revamping the urban renewal tax credit with the aim of enhancing its effectiveness. This involves restructuring its framework and expanding the geographical areas eligible for this incentive. By doing so, we can attract greater investments into underserved communities, transforming them into economic hubs. For example, we are establishing the new urban centers in each parish to create new hubs for economic activity that will ultimately grow into vibrant local economies. The first of these is the Morant Bay Urban Center. Now, I don't know if you have gone that side of the island recently. I urge you to just take a drive out to the Morant Bay Urban Center. It is the first purpose-built town in Jamaica. And that's what it is going to turn out to be, on 25 acres of abandoned factory land. Some of you might remember in the heyday of Jamaica's production, the Goodyear factory. And we have converted that into a new urban space to complement the new road that is there. Go and take a look at it. And that will be the model. We will be building an urban center in close proximity to existing towns as a strategy of removing the congestion out of the town, bringing in new business and new energy, and developing the old town for their historic and cultural assets. So you will have the new Morant Bay Urban Center, and then you will have the old town of Morant Bay, where we will put a museum, we will develop their park, we will improve their streets, develop the historic houses that are there, and turn it into a real attraction and create an urban space in addition to a suburban space where persons can live. That's the vision. Jamaica, the place of choice where you can live, work, do business, raise your families, and retire in paradise. So to complement this, we will be creating tax credits around these urban spaces. So if you're looking for businesses to invest and areas where you want to allocate capital, the development of urban spaces is going to be the new game in town. And I know NCB Capital Markets would have participated in the new urban center. And this is to improve our overall infrastructure. Now, to encourage businesses to modernize and retool their facilities as well as for investment in technology, we're considering the implementation of accelerated capital allowances. This measure would support enhanced productivity and competitiveness, especially in key industries that drive our economy. And 6, my administration has always been very supportive of the capital markets, whether it is the support for the junior market, the reduction in stamp duties and transfer taxes, or reduction in the tax on dividends. Now, I can't say too much at this time, but we are exploring a reduction in the rate of tax on dividends from the current rate of 15%. Further to that note, in support of wealth creation, the government has facilitated public ownership of national assets via the stock exchange. In the same vein, the government, and we're doing more, the government will very soon be divesting its 20% shareholding in Trans-Jamaica Highway Limited, held through the National Road Operating and Construction Company, NROC. This will be undertaken through a public offer for sale. So that is going to be something that the capital markets can look forward to. Also, later this year, the Port Authority of Jamaica will be divesting a percentage of its BPO assets, again, through a public offer for sale on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Before I close, I want to say a few words on the relationship between the cost of doing business and the cost of living. There is a close and circular relationship between the cost of doing business and the cost of living. When we improve the ease, speed, and cost of doing business, efficiency gains allow businesses to lower prices for customers. Conversely, inefficiencies, slow bureaucracy, and higher taxes or fees raise the cost for businesses, which are eventually passed on to consumers as higher prices. The high cost of living, exacerbated by global inflation from post-COVID supply chain disruption, remains a significant challenge. Food, energy, and transportation costs are the main contributors to the high cost of living. The government has provided subsidies for transportation, reduced the GCT on residential electricity, which we plan to do from 15% to 7%, and we are planning other measures. We also have measures which are now focused on reducing food costs through agricultural improvement and support for local farmers. Improving the ease, cost, and speed of doing business is not just about fostering investment, but it is also about transforming the lives of people. Every reform and bottleneck removed contributes to a more prosperous, equitable, and inclusive Jamaica. In closing, I am optimistic about Jamaica's future. The economic environment is favorable for businesses, entrepreneurs, workers, citizens. My administration remains committed to building on our successes, creating an environment where businesses can thrive, investments can flourish, and all Jamaicans can benefit from economic progress. Together, we will achieve peace, productivity, and prosperity. I wish you all a very productive and successful conference. Thank you, and God bless Jamaica.
Prime Minister, if you will, we'd just like to have you a few more minutes back on stage. We have a special presentation that we'd like to make to you for your 9 consecutive years of commitment to this conference, okay? Dr. Marlene Street-Forrest would like to make a presentation to you. And thank you for that inspiring address and your vision for Jamaica's future. Thank you again. Dr. Street-Forrest, may I ask you to just remain with us a little bit longer? Okay, please stay with us a little bit longer. I'd like to invite the chairman of the JSE, Mr. Stephen Whittingham, to join us on stage. You know, just about here, we'd like to honor outstanding individuals and organizations who have made significant contributions to our financial community. First, we recognize Dr. Marlene Street-Forrest for her 2 decades of dedication to the Jamaica Stock Exchange. And I really sincerely join the Prime Minister in saying, oh, I'm really going to miss her. I'm sure her husband Franklin will be happy. And I'm sure Franklin will be happy to have you. Okay, we'd also like to acknowledge Mr. Gregory Fisher for his impactful contributions to emerging markets and just being a great friend of this country.
Some things are just never said, no.
Greg has been with us right from the outset, and he's stuck to it, and hey, we are very grateful for his commitment. Finally, we extend our heartfelt appreciation to our valued partners for 20 years, and the following companies will now receive awards. The Jamaica Observer, number 1. Let's hear it for the Jamaica Observer. Chairman. We're not done with you yet. Okay, Stephen. Okay. Who's here from the Observer? Or have they left to write the story for tonight? The Jamaica Observer, okay. Here she is. Yeah, these are 20 years of ongoing commitment. Next, Stephen Gooden, we're going to ask you to come up here as well and make a presentation to the next organization, C&W Business. C&W Business. Anyone here from C&W Business? If not, I'll be happy to take it. Okay, stay right where you are, Steve. Let's move. Television Jamaica TVJ. 20 years of ongoing service. Anyone here from TVJ? Okay, moving right along. Oppenheimer is our next recipient. Oppenheimer. Anyone here from Oppenheimer? Okay, I know for sure NCB Capital Markets Limited. I mean, anyone here from NCB? Angus. Okay. And of course, earlier this year, we lost someone very significant and a man with a lot of vision, but his legacy lives on. The next organization we are honoring is Pulse Modeling Agency. And I'm thinking of Kingsley Cooper as we do that. Pulse Modeling Agency, anyone here? Okay, and so while the the award is being presented to Pulse Modeling Agency. We just like to okay, so as we said before, these are for 20 consecutive years of service, and I think they deserve a very special round of applause. That's commitment and stick-to-itiveness. Now, we'd also like to honor our other sponsors, Jeffries, NCB Capital Markets, Jamaica Observer, Pegasus, TVJ, Massey Group, JMMB, Sagicor Group, Deloitte, GK Capital, Burita Investments, Flow, Fosrich, Oppenheimer, CIBC, Caribbean Assurance Brokers, Trans Jamaica, JBDC, IDB, Pulse, Worthy Park, Intelligent Media, JPS, PSOJ, and of course, the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Another round of applause, please. Without these organizations and persons, we wouldn't be able to do this, and that's a fact. Okay, so a number of persons have really gone above and beyond to make this event again possible, and so thanks is in order, and to do the honors, I'm going to ask the Group Business Development Manager, Mr. Andre Gooden, if he will do the vote of thanks for us. Andre? There you are.
Nice tie. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank our Master of Ceremonies, who I believe has done, if not all, most of these 20 editions of the Stock Exchange Conference. Well done, Michael, and we look forward to your continued support. I would also like to thank Reverend Dexter Johnson, who continues to lead us in bringing some solemnity and some spirituality to our proceedings. Year after year, several times he has done it, and we thank him for making the time to be with us and to continue to support us. Our welcome was done today by none other than Dr. Marlene Street-Forrest, and we want to thank you for those words, of course, of welcome. As usual, very warm, but we also want to thank you for your vision and motivating us and making us believe in ourselves as the Jamaica Stock Exchange, and reminding us that what the Jamaica Stock Exchange can achieve is not really confined to the shores of Jamaica. That is something that will live with us. Thank you very much for your years of service and your commitment to this particular event. To our chairman, Stephen, reminding us that we are here to make access to capital available to all, not just some. And also reminding us about the transformative benefits of economic growth, which we really want to embrace. Angus, as you sit there with your citation, revolutionizing investments, thank you for recognizing the Jamaica Stock Exchange role in innovation and economic growth. And thank you again for NCB Capital Markets' commitment to this event over the years. And beside you, of course, Greg Fisher, for your commitment to the Jamaica Stock Exchange for the last 20 years. I mean, I personally have been reading and listening to you for in excess of 20 years. And every time you speak, I learn something else. Not just about the capital markets, but about the Jamaican capital markets. So we thank you, Greg, for your commitment, and we look forward to your continued support as well. Steve Higgins, what can we say about Steve Higgins? But wow. Greg will talk about portfolio diversification, and that is evident in Steve's repertoire, which he showed us tonight, a wide repertoire. Thank you very much, Steve. and for being a continued ambassador for Jamaica in your travels across the world. Thank you to the members of the diplomatic corps who have been here with us and who continue to support us every year. Several of them have left, but some of them are still here, and we thank you all for being here. I want to acknowledge Ambassador Fermin Quinones, Cuban ambassador to Jamaica, and his charge d'affaires, Rolando Davia Gallardo, High Commissioner Derek Murray. Those of you born before 1970 would know Derek Murray as the outstanding West Indies wicketkeeper for many years, and we still revel in the glory of those days for obvious reasons. Prime Minister, we thank you for realizing and accepting the challenge of facilitating growth. We now need to actualize that vision. And we thank you for also recognizing that government bureaucracy is sometimes a hurdle to doing business, and we will be following very closely for measurable improvement in that. And we have some team members, or at least one, who we believe would serve very well on that committee to reorganize the government bureaucracy. Every year you come here, Prime Minister, and you bring us some good news. The last couple of years you brought us a lot of encouragement, but we didn't get any really good news. But this year, we thank you for your vision in terms of moving forward to with the International Financial Services Center. The firm timeline for an increase in the threshold of the junior market, which you say is within a few days. We thank you for that. Payroll reform initiatives, revisiting the tax on dividends. These are all stimulants for our market, and we thank you for them. The only problem is that I know that you still left something for the Honorable Minister to come and present to us tomorrow. He didn't give us everything, I'm sure. Madam Minister? So we'll be here bright and early in the morning. The Master of Ceremonies has already thanked our several sponsors. I thank you again. I'm not going to go through the list again. I have 2 more days in which I can do that. But every sponsor, major, minor, whatever, is a sponsor. And your contributions to the success of this event over the years cannot be discounted. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to 2 more days of excellent interaction, networking, and let's do business. Thank you very much. Have a good night. See you in the morning.
Thanks, Andre. Nice tie indeed, my brother. Nice tie. Ladies and gentlemen, what an incredible way to kick off this milestone conference. And to think tonight was just the beginning. Tomorrow we'll dive even deeper into the issues shaping our markets. Now, on behalf of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, thank you for joining us tonight. Let's make these next 3 days one for the books. I'm Michael Anthony Cuff. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Take care on your way home.
Nielsen, the curtains have come down on the opening night of the 20th Regional Investments and Capital Markets Conference here at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel in picturesque Kingston. How was it for you?
It has been a fabulous evening, an evening well spent. I'll tell you, the information gathered this evening must have set investors in motion to really reassess their portfolios. Well, I do remember the chairman of the Jamaica Stock Exchange in his first conference, his address should have looked at customer service, and I was wondering, how do you get customer service in a conference such as this? But he touched on topics such as Jamaica's labor productivity, and that really hit a chord. We have to improve our productivity if we intend to achieve the kind of growth that we are yearning for.
In the economy, and the Prime Minister actually said to him he noticed that he was listening to him all this time, because that was one of his points all this time over the years. Our keynote speaker, the Prime Minister, says that this conference is a very important event and it will set the stage for Jamaica's economy for 2025. So it's big things happening here, right?
Indeed. When we look at before the Prime Minister, Mr. Angus, NCB Managing Director, that's NCB Capital Markets CEO, Angus Young, he spoke to the importance of using analytics to look at the data and help that to drive investments in your portfolio and in the economy in general. It's also very important to note, Yanil, that Mr. Greg Fisher spoke to looking at the opportunities and threats for the entire world in 2025. And I found that quite appropriate given all the changes, given what is happening in the United States, given what is happening in the world, and how that feeds into us here in the Caribbean.
And one thing that you must remember, NCB Capital Markets, one of the main sponsors, they have assured us that they're going to be sponsoring the conference for the next 5 years. Big, big deal.
Big deal. And so has Jeffries. They have been with us from day one and continue to come.
So we want to invite you to still and stay with Caribbean Business Exchange, because days 2 and 3 of the conference will continue. Who will be speaking tomorrow morning?
Well, tomorrow morning we'll certainly be hearing from the Finance Minister, as the Prime Minister put it, the newly minted Finance Minister, Honorable Favour Williams. And of course, I'm sure the financial markets are yearning to hear what the Finance Minister has to say.
They will be with us for the next 2 days. So please come and join us. Live streaming on YouTube and CBX on jamstockex.com. Plus which channels?
Well, you can watch on Flow on 143 and on Digicel on 28. But I also want to mention that tomorrow, Ramon Small Ferguson of Barita Investments will be hitting a topic that most investors want to hear: how to shape, align, and realign your portfolio.
So I'm Neil Wood, and this is...
And I'm Nielsen Rose.
And we are coming to you from the Jamaica Stock Exchange for the 20th Regional Investments Capital Markets Conference. Thanks for joining us.
The only business news station bringing you the investment info that you need to make the best financial decisions.